The credentials of the original producer, Linwood Boorman, were really terrific. At that time, he'd done a series called Night Court, and then he later went on to create Malcolm in the Middle. So, the guy was clearly talented.
Alpha 4, Alpha 9, where's the damn cat?
In certain countries, that's considered a delicacy.
When he did the American pilot, that was the first show he'd ever been showrunner on where he was solely in charge. And in my view, he made some mistakes.
The first time I heard about the American pilot was before we started the series, and I was asked not to talk about it because I think at that stage it wasn't definite. But the American producers had expressed an interest in taking me, and I've never, still to this day, been quite sure why. I don't think it's because they thought I was really an American and they wouldn't have to get me a work permit and a visa. Because you'd think that once they realised they had to, they'd think, let's get someone else, But they did. I mean, and it was a huge hassle for them to get that. It wasn't easy to wangle it.
Must have made a wrong turn somewhere. You should have made a left at the last intersection, Crichton.
Be quiet, sparehead one. I know what I'm doing. Boy, I hate backseat drivers.
The original understanding was that the British cast weren't going to be involved at all. And much to our delight stroke horror, we discovered Robert was in it. And human nature being what it is, there was bound to be some fierce jealousy from from certainly at least two of the cast.
The Chris who played Rimmer was weak. The guy who played me was really good. That's what really pissed me off as well. He was really good, but he was like 6'4" and handsome.
How long have I been in stasis, Holly?
Well, I couldn't let you out until the radiation died down to a safe level. Really? You're gonna laugh.
How long?
Just under 3 million years.
My baseball cards must be worth a fortune.
We weren't really involved. It was very much the Americans talking to Robert.
We didn't know, and obviously, to try and keep the focus, they thought it was a good idea that they didn't tell everyone because who knows what would have happened.
Robert at that point was going, I'm not sure. Do I want to go to America? And the money is rather a lot, and every time I say no, they keep doubling it. But I'm not really sure. Now, my feeling was Robert going out and telling that to the guys in the cast was really not going to be helpful for the next season.
It's all water under the bridge to me now, but I found out about the Red Dwarf pilot from the makeup lady, Andrea Finch. She was making me up, and I said, what you do next time? I'm just going over to America with Robert. I said, what for? She'd over to do the Red Dwarf American show. And no one had told us about it. And Robert hadn't told us about it. And we just felt like cheated.
I still hadn't agreed to do the American one, because I was really torn about it, because it felt, I was very attached to the British cast, and it felt like, and also you have to sign this horrendous contract, or I thought you had to sign this, I found out later you didn't, but when you're offered a job like that, you get given a 6-year contract, which ties you into this show for 6 years, just in case it runs, and then they've got you, and you can't sort of go, I don't want to do it now. And I'm very much a don't want to do it now sort of person. So I was rather nervous about this monstrous contract. And I didn't want to live in Hollywood, and I didn't want to it would have been 32 episodes of Red Dwarf a year for 6 years. I sort of thought I could see myself at the end of that, either with a staggeringly complex chemical abuse habit or 8 personal psychotherapists and a masseuse.
And then about halfway through, Robert said, look, I am going to do it.
Lister was played by Craig Bierko, who when I first met him, I went, oh my, this is so wrong. You know, that was that kind of fear, because he's incredibly handsome. He's got proper pectoral muscles that you can only get in America. I don't know where you get them from. There must be a store.
If you was going to ask me who Lister should have been, ideally, if you wanted an American, John Belushi. He's Lister, not Craig Bierko.
And he was actually up for a part in Friends, the sitcom. He was going to play Joey, and he said no, but that's another story.
What's your name? Crichton. Well, my full name is Crichton 2XB 517P. Although I don't really like the 2XB part. I think it's a rather jerky middle name.
Dave Lister.
Oh. Well, conversation mode. So, Mr. Lister, sir, what brings you out into deep space?
Oh, that's a long story. I got into a drinking game. One minute I'm sitting in a bar in Detroit. Next thing I know, I'm waking up on a park bench on the fourth moon of Saturn wearing absolutely nothing but a traffic cone on my head.
Charming guy, really good-looking man, and lovely teeth. He had lovely Californian teeth. Hey, Bob, great to meet you. Great, you know. Oh.
They made everyone a bit more better looking. Well, the men, anyway.
Chris Eichmann was Rimmer, who immediately I saw him in the room. I went, that's Rimmer. And I was right.
So what's it feel like?
Death?
Yeah.
It's like being at an Amish bachelor party.
When Rob came back, I went to his, he had I think it was a launch party or a birthday party, and I attended. And so I sort of walked in and went, who played the cat? Really? And he went, a guy called Hinton Battle. And I went, who? Hinton Battle?
I know what you want. You're after my string. This string is mine.
This guy was like a hero to us dancers and that over here, you know. I thought, no. And then I thought about it. I thought, well, obviously, because, you know, my musical theatre background, and this guy'd been, you know, this guy played the Scarecrow in The Wiz when he was 16 on Broadway, you know. He'd got 3 Tony Awards, you know, like, this guy was the man as far as song and dance was concerned, you know. This guy had an album produced by Quincy Jones.
Okay. Be big.
This is a cat?
He evolved from cat, sir, just as your distant ancestors once swung from trees.
Ancestors? His grandparents swung from trees.
Jane Leeves as Holly, who went on to be very successful in Frasier.
Yeah, I thought that was strange. They ended up with an English Holly, because Jane Leeves, although she's meant to be American, she's actually English. So I think her hair was wrong.
I'm now 2.9 million years over my rated lifespan. My memory is shot, all my circuits are breaking down. Actually, that one felt kind of good.
We arrived, exhausted from the series and kind of jet-lagged. We met the guys in the bar at the hotel, and they basically said, we've got a script, it's really terrific. And in fact, it was a kind of botched, horrible version of the pilot.
Weekly chicken soup machine.
All right, can it, mister?
Yes, sir, Mr. Rimmer, sir.
Except to introduce Crichton as a character who was joining the ship at that point.
Oh, excuse me, sirs. I'm looking for Captain Tao. I appear to be a little lost.
You're a robot, right?
It shows.
Only to the trained eye.
We did the read-through, and it just didn't, well, it got a lot of polite laughter, but it wasn't good at all.
I think 14 writers had been hired to write it. So it was based on the original opening script of Red Dwarf, but with changes introducing Crichton right at the beginning. But the same basic idea of the cat being taken on board the ship, you know, blah, blah, blah.
We did the table reading. We then joined, they had a load of guys from The Simpsons and some guys from Cheers came in, so there was a group of like 10 guys all in one room, chipping in one-liners. We were pretty tired, and our nickname became The Wave, which was an abbreviation for the wave of negativity, because we wouldn't just be chipping in one-liners like everyone else. We'd be asking really fundamental questions. One of the big changes that they made was, with Lister, they cast Craig Bierko. Now, Craig Bierko, I think, was a terrific actor and would have made a terrific Lister, but in the way that we tailored our script to fit Craig, you needed to tailor the script to fit Craig Bierko. People go, oh, he was, he belonged on Baywatch. Oh, he was Mr. Hunky, he was this. No, he wasn't. He was, he's a pretty good-looking guy, okay? There's nothing wrong if you're funny and you're a good actor. It's possible, Look at the guys in Friends, they're not hideous. It's still possible to make it work. You don't need to, be pug ugly to be funny. However, the central idea of that pilot show was Lister couldn't get a date from Kochanski.
I can change, Hey, whatever.
No, that's the problem. Hey, whatever. You spend your whole life just drifting and avoiding responsibility. I can't be in a relationship like that.
Wait a minute. I think I know what kind of commitment you're talking about here. You want me to make you my official girlfriend. My God, Chris, you know something? I think I'm ready to take that leap.
Bye, Dave. Don't call.
It was just wrong for Lister's character to be chasing someone so uptight and kind of dislikable. And those were the points that Rob and I were constantly making, and they were going, basically, oh, you're being so negative, just think of one-liners. And we went, doesn't matter how many one-liners you think of, that's not going to solve it. That's just Band-Aid over the cancer. You need to sort out some real fundamental problems. So we had the big session with all the writers, and we did like 2 or 3 nights like that. This is all over a week. And round about the second or the third night, we just went, guys, we can't think of anything. We're just absolutely dead. We need to get some sleep. We've come in from a series where Rob literally fell asleep in an edit, sitting up like this. Then we've caught the plane to LA. We've had no sleep. We need some sleep. So we were dismissed and nicknamed the Wave. And then they did this rewrite, and then there was another table reading the following day.
And it was only after we'd done a couple of read-throughs with lots of men in suits doing really quite poor fake laughing. Da-da-da. Well, sir, da-da. Doing that. And I'd sort of look at them, and the rest of and I was worried that I was the weird one. But then I look at the rest of the cast, and they're all going, these people are sick. So I realised it wasn't completely on mine. Rob and Doug sort of going like this.
And the second table reading was even worse than the first table reading. All humour had been completely stripped out of the show. It was just terrible.
There was a sort of discussion amongst, not inspired by me at all, but I think a couple of other cast members sort of gathered round and going, wow, come here. What do you think of this script? And I was sort of being all, I think it's very good. They went, it's shit. Shit. And they hated it. They all hated it. So I went, oh dear. I don't know. I was so out of my depth. I went, I don't know what you do. I was going, well, I'm sure we can make it work, and maybe we can talk about it. And I didn't know what to do.
And then we went to Linwood and we said, look, we've had a good night's sleep. We'd really like to have a crack at rewriting the script. This was about 7 in the evening. We can have a new script ready for you, 8 in the morning. And there were recording some bits the following day, and then the main show the day after that. This is where training in late scripts can come in useful. So he went, why? What's wrong with this script? And we went, Linwood, no one thinks it works. It's not funny. We can do something. We can fix a lot of the problems. A lot of the problems were in the first 15 minutes. And then there were some quite good one-liners. Some terrific one-liners. And then the ending was horrible.
You've been stuck here for 3 million years? What have you been doing?
Well, I've been reading that fire exit sign over there. This cat is quite clearly pregnant.
He is? I thought it was all the beer I've been giving it.
So he went, okay. So we start at 8 in the evening, work through, 8 in the morning. He arrives, we've got the new script. We go, what do you think? So he reads it, absolute silence. Finishes it, and go, what do you think? He goes, no, I think we should stay with the one we've got. And we said, but this one's funny. And he went, no. He said, and anyway, I think giving the guys a new script at this late stage would just confuse them. And we said, but why didn't you say that last night? Because we wouldn't have written it. And he said, no, I think we'll just go with the script we've got. So we said, well, look, there's nothing for us really to do now. You won't take the script. How about we just read, let's have a read-through, and see what the cast think? And he goes, no. So we go, okay, well, there's nothing for us to do. We're just going to get the plane home. So we go back to the hotel, and Rob had bought a couple of bottles of champagne on his way out, anticipating there'd be something to celebrate, mad fool. So Rob goes, these bottles of champagne are never going to be drunk out of any celebration reasons. Let's go drink them now. We'll celebrate the fact that, yeah, actually, we probably did a pretty good job, but, you know, no one will get to see it. So we drink certainly one bottle, and I think we were halfway down the second one. And I go, this is just so annoying, because we're going to go the way that all Brit writers go when they come out to do the sitcoms. They all come back with the tails between the legs, and they're all ruined. You know, we started to talk about the Fawlty Towers that was done and how they dropped Basil Fawlty because that was the reason why Fawlty Towers wasn't working. So they dropped Basil Fawlty. I mean, it's unbelievable. So I said, look, we will go back. We'll fight for this.
Do not forsake me, oh my darling. I only know I must be brave, for I must face a man who hates me.
We can do this. Let's at least get the cast to read it. And if the cast hate it, then okay. So we went back and said, hi, guys, to the cast. You know there's a new script. And they all went, no. Oh, yeah, we did a new script last night. Well, where is it? Oh, no, you're not allowed to read it. You're not allowed to read it? No, you can't read it. What's it like? Oh, it's better than the one you're doing now. And, of course, just nuggets of, you know, and then the cast went, there's another script, we want to read it.
And then they slipped the script under our doors early that morning. And one by one, the cast members came in, because they kind of turned to me as being the person who knew the poor saps, as if I knew anything. God, say, Robert, what do we do? This script's much better. And I went, well, should we see if we can do that one then? Because it was just instantly transformed, and it was very, very funny. It had all the kind of American references and jokes in, but it was just tighter. It was about 10 pages shorter, for one thing. It was tighter. It had the plot in it the way it should be. You know, it all worked really well.
So anyway, the guy who laughs at every line, in every rehearsal, in every read-through, every time, is given a copy of our script, which he reads absolutely silently. And to be fair to him, he was not laughing because he didn't know which way it was going to go, because it was like, whose side am I on, who's going to win this? Don't know. So he went, oh, who knows which is better? I mean, they're both terrific. What should we do?
And I think we just sat down with the director. And he said, I realise some of you may have seen a different script that Robin took. And he went, yeah. Well, what's the general feeling? Would we like to do that? Everybody's hands up. Okay. Threw the old script out and we did the new one.
And then from that point on, various things happened to prevent the new script being shot. The whole opening few scenes, which addressed a lot of the major problems that were wrong with the American pilot, weren't shot for various reasons that didn't really make sense at the time. And so what we wound up with was something much closer to the original script than the one that we did, although at that point it looked like we'd triumphed, but it was not to be.
If you're from the future, where am I?
Oh, you're out golfing.
People were relatively optimistic at the end that there was going to be a series. NBC were going, oh yeah, there's going to be a series. There's a lot of kind of celebrations and stuff. There was one awful moment when one of the producers, who shall be nameless, was going, we're going to be so rich, guys, we're going to be so rich. And it was sort of so nauseating, like, so that's why we're doing this, is it, to be rich?
Well, I finished the pilot and basically came back to England and waited.
And we were invited back to try and fix it, except we were given no budget. It was literally a few $1,000s to work in a shed. And this was an in-house thing. This was not intended to be stolen and used in fan conventions. This was supposed to be just for NBC.
Because they were trying to get Chris to do it as well. After they were on the phone, kept trying to get Chris to do it as well.
I was sort of second wave approach, you know. I think Robert was already over there and they'd sort of cast the crew and everything. But then I got this call to say that they couldn't find an American actor with a low enough opinion of himself to be able to convincingly portray Rimmer. So, you know, I thought, if they want me to go over there, yes. But of course I was thinking the very quaint, old-fashioned way of, I'll pop over there and see them and then I'll pop back to England and have a pint in my local pub and think, do I want to do this? But no. As soon as you set foot on the plane, basically, at Heathrow or wherever, that's it.
At the time, I think Chris was ill-advised. Chris's fear of, I have to sign a deal, get on the plane, and then put in this series that I hate, and I'm in, American comedy prison for 6 years, was never going to materialise. What was much more likely to happen was he would get paid a lot of money for doing a pilot that wouldn't happen. If the pilot happened and went to a series, it would run 5-6 shows and then it would get axed. If it went for 5-6 seasons, he's one of the most famous people in America because we would be there with the X-Files and Friends and all those shows.
It doesn't loom in my mind as being a big decision now, but at the time, I was just advised by my agent to really be careful about, going over there to do the pilot, because if it does do quite well and you're not on an amazing deal, for example, then you've got to come back to England and you've got to start again almost,
And also what had happened when we came back to reshoot and do that little bit of recasting is all the best people had been taken off and they were in their new series, and then basically as those crashed and burned, they would become available again, but at that point they hadn't crashed and burned. So there was a limited talent pool at that point.
Hi, buddy.
We also tried to get Danny, but he was in Carmen Jones at the Old Vic. So we turned the cat into a woman and cast Terry Farrell. It was a kind of a completely different kind of cat to Danny's.
It was White Dwarf. The cat was a white woman. Lister was a 6'4", blonde-haired, brown-eyed sex god. And it was like, in the future, it was like black people, someone's planning on us not being here.
When we replaced Hinton Battle with Terry Farrell, that wasn't a decision on, hey, let's try and make the cast as white as possible. That was the decision on, we can't find anyone as good as Danny of any colour or description, but we can do a new character with a female and have a new chemistry, and the best person we found is Terry Farrell. And we weren't going, today we have, let's see, the black people and then the white people and the yellow people. That was just, it was cast, always will be cast, and who's the best person you can get.
The reasons behind it not happening who knows? I mean, it's a mystery. But at that time, I know that NBC, who it would have been for, made, I don't know how many pilots. They make a lot. They made a lot of pilots, but they made 3 pilots in their own studios, at the NBC studios in Hollywood. And strange enough, all 3 of those were picked up and run with. And NBC had really been pressuring Rob and Doug to make the series at the NBC studios. And for, I'm sure, really good reasons, they chose to do it at Universal. So it was a kind of co-production and all, the ins and outs of it are very complex, and I was never party to that. I did see lots of men in suits in the studio would come round and tell me I was fantastic. So I was going, thank you. I don't know who any of them were. They're probably the most powerful men in American television. And I was like, hello.
I'm glad it didn't work anyway, and the guys are really upset it didn't work. So we're both pulling from different ends of the rope here, because if it had worked, there wouldn't have been a series 6, 7, or 8. You know what I mean? They would have all gone to America and become multimillionaires, and me and Danny would have been on the dole.
I actually saw the American pilots at a convention. That's the only time I saw them. I've actually got one now. I've got a DVD of 2 American pilots that I bought at a convention. I did get a discount, but I had to buy them. They weren't much better than I thought they'd be, because they'd been so slagged off by the fans that I thought, God, they're going to be really dreadful. But they weren't Red Dwarf, but they were a different thing.
I mean, I was in a convention in America, and some guy shouted out to me in question and answer. He said, what did I think of the American pilot? because everybody's seen it. Everybody who's a Red Dwarf fan has seen the American Pilot. And, you know, unfortunately, the questions always come back to the actors. You know, never going to go to the Hollywood guys who made the decisions. And so I said, look, you guys are Americans. What did you think about it? And they said they hated it. It's a very curious English thing, Red Dwarf, you know.
Lister and Rimmer, particularly, of course, you know, are very strong English types, you know, British types.
It's also very rooted in a kind of class system as well, you know. Rimmer is aspiring to be sort of officer class, and Lister's just a grease monkey, sort of working class, and that doesn't quite translate into American, really, you know.
America doesn't have a class system. Yeah, it does. The people who appear on the Jerry Springer show are the same people as the kind of people who appear on Friends. There is a class system everywhere. We know whether it's money. I mean, you don't have to, just because you don't have the royal family doesn't mean you don't have a class system. Also, you take a look at the first Alien film with those two guys who were wanting pay rises, and they weren't on the same crew rates as the rest of the guys on that ship. There was a class system right there.
It's quite funny when there are some lines exactly the same. You go, oh my God, it is Red Dwarf, because you do think you're watching something different.
It was very clean. There was no grunge in it. It was, you know, there was no curry stains, no custard, no, just very homogenised, very sort of American. I think the British people sort of, you know, have already taken us to heart, so I don't have to worry about them.
In the end, I'm really glad I did the pilot, because it was enormous fun and an extraordinary experience to do that.
Robert actually told me the story. He said he was sitting there one day with Hinton and he's like looking a little bit down. And Robert goes to him, you know, you all right? And he goes, yeah, you know, it's just, you know, how's it going kind of thing. And he's, oh, okay, you know, it's just that the other guy was so good. And I'm like, man, doesn't matter. Now, Hinton Battle has given me the green light.
I had a different mask on then, in those days, with a different mouth, which meant I could eat humanoid food, which is an extraordinary experience. And in America, they give you a lot of food on a big table. It goes on forever. And it's called craft services, and there's lots of men who come and replenish your Danish pastries and your nuts and your Coke. And you just spend all day eating. And then they say, would you mind coming to say a line? And you say, well, I'll just finish this croissant. And I'll just maybe take a shower, and then I'll talk to one of my many agents. And then I'll wander over in my limousine to the studio and say one line, and then I'll go home. And for that, I'm paid $43,000. Yes, I enjoyed it. 1 week.